At one point in America's history, Maytag was synonymous with the washing machine. Every washing machine you use today bears in some way a feature that Maytag worked with and invented. But time has mostly forgotten the Maytag Corporation. What led to their demise may have had just as much of an impact on the appliance industry today as their innovations and mascot did yesterday. If you aren't old enough to know, Maytag was at one time more than just an appliance company, it was a cultural icon. The Maytag man was almost as popular as other commercial icons like Ronald McDonald or Colonel Sanders. Maytag's strategy was simple: buy a Maytag, buy it for life. In hundreds of commercials, the common theme was the same. The Maytag man would sit and wait at a desk, never having to repair one of their machines.
What? You can't get your Maytag washer started? I'll be right over. Good morning, ladies. I get to fix a Maytag.
And for the most part, it was true. The Maytag dependable care machine was considered bulletproof by technicians and homeowners alike. But before the Maytag man and that washer, the story starts 70 years earlier. The Maytag company's story starts in 1893 with Frederick Fred Maytag, not as an appliance company, but a farm implement business with the two Bergman brothers, William and A.H., then an investor, George W. Parsons, which was called the Parsons Band Cutter and Self-Feeder Company. Fred managed the company for George Parsons' inventions. Parsons' contribution, a threshing machine self-feeder that was a hit in the rural farming communities of Iowa. They quickly became a farm tool powerhouse by 1902. However, their rise to fame was quickly set back by a fire in August 1903, destroying most of the original factory. The result was that the company moved its entire operation to Newton, Iowa to rebuild. With their growth, the business partners realized that farming doesn't last all year long. It forced the Parsons company to turn to all kinds of new, modern inventions to keep their workers, which numbered nearly 100 by 1907, busy. They tried their hand at making cars, vacuum sweepers, and fountain pens, among other products. Then in 1907, they turned to washing machines, a separate business owned by Maytag, Bergman, and Parsons. The Parsons Hawkeye Company turned to the washer as their next product to forge in the Newton, Iowa factory. Washing machines weren't an entirely new technology at this time. The Skull brothers, who were Parsons' manufacturing partners on their original threshers, had built a prototype machine called the Whirl as early back as 1899, helping launch a rival farming company, Hawkeye Incubators, in the nascent washer market. New designs rapidly made it to the stores, such as the 1-minute washer, which was quickly surpassing their incubator product in sales. Parsons' first product was called the Pastime washer. It was a hit with everyone that tried it. The Cypress tubbed machine had a hand crank that forced clothes to agitate on the sides of the corrugated drum, leading to faster wash times and a better, more complete wash. At $7.50 wholesale, the Pastime was a revolution. The patented flywheel, one designed by a Parsons salesman who dabbled in washers in Des Moines, made the washer a massive challenger for the more established 1-minute washer. The agitator had 4 wooden pegs, and it got the clothes cleaner than all of the rivals. The success took the company by surprise. The Parsons Farming Company's washers began to quickly outstrip the farming tools it was founded to make. Not only that, they couldn't source enough of the tubs for their washing machines, causing them to pivot wholesale into washers, but the company needed a new name. So on December 11th, 1909, a new company was announced, and it was named after the manager that was at the center of all the action, Maytag. After this, Maytag kept selling other products, but washers quickly evolved and kept selling better and better. Hand cranks began to get displaced by belts powered with engines, and in just 4 years of introducing the hand-cranked Pastime washer, Maytag stepped out and introduced the first electric washing machine in 1911. Then a gas-powered model was introduced in 1914 for rural homes that didn't have access to electric yet, as much of Iowa hadn't been electrified and they still needed their clothes cleaned. Thanks to the gas engine, the Pastime could also be repurposed to other chores in the home. Butter churning, milking, printing, and even an ice cream freezer was established with that design. But Maytag's truly revolutionary invention didn't come until the early 1920s. It was in the gyrofoam washing machine that was built on the impossible cast aluminum Model 70 to 72 washer. The secret? It was the genesis of the modern agitator. Agitators were not new to washing machines, but mounting them on the bottom of a washing machine was. It was less cumbersome than competitors' lid-mounted agitators or the washboard lining of other machines, which even include the pastime. The bottom mount agitator was more reliable and faster for washing than any other machine on the market. The impossible washer of the 1920s was so important because it led Maytag to move away from the traditional leak-prone wooden tubs to a once thought impossible aluminum tub. And once established, they had a machinery behemoth on their hands, forging the aluminum tubs in their Newton, Iowa factory. By the early 1920s, there was over 700 washing machine companies in the US, and the Gyrofoam allowed Maytag to rocket into first place within 2 years of the Gyrofoam aluminum machine. Sales were so fast, Maytag was rolling out its millionth washing machine even by 1927. The machines were so prolific in American history, they can still be found today being used by the Amish communities, which swear off electric, favoring gas motors. This allowed Maytag to become and remain the king of washing machines for decades, and they even survived the cataclysmic depression of the 1930s. They continued to iterate on the impossible design with the Master Series despite all the woes and troubles of the 1930s. Despite the times, Maytag still made a profit, even handing out bonuses to its 1,000-strong workforce while the rest of the nation was facing waves of unemployment. Newton, Iowa was able to avoid the worst parts of the American Depression, but not necessarily its conclusion, because by 1941, Maytag had just rolled off its 4 millionth washing machine. But when the bombs fell on Pearl Harbor and World War II came to America, Maytag then shifted 97% of their assembly lines to make equipment for the war. The master washer was traded in for the B-26 Marauder and its components, but also so did their competitors. The washing machine market was essentially frozen in time. Whirlpool produced components for firearms. The Bendix Corporation, creator of the first automatic washing machine, already had its hand in various war-related components, and then Westinghouse was, well, Westinghouse. By the end of the war, Maytag provided every B-17 and B-29 bomber with its hydraulic retraction units, including those destined for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But when the war ended, production around America quickly switched back to washing machines. Despite the abrupt end to the appliance production, the machines were in hot demand in the post-war boom that followed. Within 2 years, Maytag was breaking production records yet again and delivered their 5 millionth washing machine, including the production levels rising to 2,200 washers built a day by 1949. Maytag found itself in prime position to rule the market after the war. They began to market ranges and refrigerators in the boom that followed, although they were made by other factories outside of the Newton complex. Their wringer washers that we've talked about, they were continued to be sold by Maytag through the 1980s. They eventually sold over 12 million units. Another invention that came that year in 1949, it was the release of the automatic Maytag with a pump. Next in Maytag history in 1953, they released their first clothes dryer, the heir to the wringer that was attached onto the washing machines we've all known. The automatic spin cycle on the AMP, the automatic Maytag with pump, needed a partner in the laundry room, and the 601 series was it. However, with their success in the washer market, it didn't quite translate to success with those ranges and refrigerators. They left the market for these two products in 1955 and 1960 respectively. But back to their core product, washing machines. In the late 1950s and 1960s, they brought the birth of Maytag's two most famous inventions that would be the cornerstone for the rest of their history. In 1957, Maytag launched its new washing machine. Initially labeled in ads as the Maytag Automatic, it was eventually dubbed as the Dependable Care washing machine. Rather than a flat top unit, this one had a console in the rear of the chassis. It featured all new buttons and features like a selector for water temperature and an automatic water level control to save water. It also included a mercury-filled lid safety switch that would stop the machine from spinning if the lid was opened, saving hands and lives. They added a 2-speed motor as well, which allowed the machine to wash delicates now. It made it feature competitive with other rival machines on the market, primarily Kenmore's 1955 Cyclofabric. This machine would be so monumental in the Maytag catalog that the Newton, Iowa plant that built it would never stop producing this machine until the plant and the company shuttered. Even at the 30th anniversary of the design, Consumer Reports in 1987 gave the Maytag Dependable Care washer its top scores over newer competitors on the market from GE, Frigidaire, and Whirlpool. The machine's design would eventually stay on sales floors through its 50th birthday, a feat that has never been repeated in the history of the appliance industry. Maytag machines would sell themselves. The company's slogan for the salesman was, "If it doesn't sell, don't keep it." But in the late 1950s and 60s, slogans did begin to evolve. Yet Maytag would continue to feature ads showing their machines off as the most durable, well-built machines on the market. Maytag would even hold contests at retailers, hot wiring the machines to run night and day, giving onlookers the chance to guess how many hours and days of continuous running the machines would operate until they finally failed, giving the closest guess a free or reduced cost washing machine. In one known example, onlookers had to wait not weeks but 3.5 months for the continuous running of a Maytag machine until it finally failed, not because the motor, the transmission, or other major component failed. The grand display was called to an end because of a rubber hose and plastic injection system that developed the leak. However, as the 60s rolled around, things at the corporation began to change. The company transitioned from the Maytag family being involved with the day-to-day activities. With the passing of Fred Maytag II in 1962, the Maytag family would no longer be involved in running the day-to-day company activities. That job eventually passed to E.G. Higdon. Higdon was a Maytag man as much as the Maytag family. He served the company for many years prior, starting as an internal auditor, rising to become the president of the Maytag company in 1962. In the next 12 years as president, he propelled the company to stratospheric heights over the next decade. Under his tenure, Maytag ranked yearly in the top 50 companies in America in regards to return on assets. And also through the 1960s, Maytag continued to grow and expand its product lineup, adding portable dishwashers in 1966.